So this story took place back in 16. That was around the same year that Pokemon Go had came out and it became a really popular game. However, though, the game was quite a bit of dangerous. Now this happened to a camp leader named Alex who had been looking forward to this summer camp for weeks. He had used to attend summer camps back when he was a kid in the mid and early and late 90s, but he had been a camp counselor for a couple of years. He even volunteered to be a leader, which was a side job that he'd been doing as well. So he was determined to make it the best summer of the campers' lives. As soon as they arrived at the camp, Alex decided to take off and explore the area. He was pretty much excited to wander around with the other camp kids and even try out the new Pokemon Go game that had been released. It had been very popular, and a lot of people have been playing Pokemon Go. It had been very popular, to which it would explain why everybody's been all over catching Pokemon in that. However, some people have been using it in dangerous times, such as them almost getting hit by a car, getting in an accident, etc. However, while walking around, he suddenly heard a noise and he saw what looked to be two figures in the shadows that where faces were hidden. Of course, this was around the time that it was around the time where Pokemon Go had been more were putting more people into risks. So keep in mind this was at a pretty stable area and crime doesn't really happen much in the city he was in. However, though, he felt chills down his spine that these people were robbers. He quickly pulled out his phone and, of course, as he was trying to play the game, he didn't even think that those people were there. However, though, that's when Alex ends up looking over to see that the robbers were getting closer. His cries were then heard by the campers and staff as soon as they ended up trying to grab him. Of course, when everyone else heard that Alex was being grabbed, the other counselors spooked all the robbers and they ran away. Alex was back at the campsite with his friends and the staff members at the day camp. He realized that in that moment, even though he was just playing a game, he was he was connected to a community. It was then he realized the importance of it and the power of it coming together to protect each other. Now, at this time, though, Alex had no idea why those robbers were there or what could have happened to them if he went any further and away from the campers. What were those robbers doing and what they wanted? Alex does not know. But this story really still gets to him. Even to this day, he still wonders why they wanted to rob him, but he doesn't even want to know. This happened to a friend of mine named Tracy, and it was around the summertime of 2015. Tracy was off of school, and during her summertime, she would play on her Xbox 360 and etc. However, she played and spent hours of day spending her time in a dream world exploration of excitement on a game called Minecraft. Today was like any other day and she was home alone. She was playing Minecraft when she was talking to one of her friends on a Skype call. One of her friends had been talking to her and they'd been asking her about stuff if they had done stuff that they wanted to do for the summer. As Tracy was talking to her friends about it, her phone rang. She answered the call to hear what seemed to be like a deep voice of valid breathing. She at first didn't know who it was. She thought it was a prank call, but when she looked at the caller ID when it hung up, it said the number was unknown, probably a private number. Honestly, she just ignored it and continued to go on with her game and explained it to what brings her to her world where she was just on the phone. Of course, that's when Tracy ended up continuing to play the game. However, she heard another phone call ring again. This time, when she picked it up, the voice on the other end sounded like there was a woman. She appeared to be crying. However, she tried to ask who it was, but however, though, there was no unknown reason about who this person was. They didn't even identify the name. Tracy ended up deciding to call her parents about it, so she called while playing Minecraft, and her parents had said to contact the cops. She eventually did that. As soon as she contacted the cops, they came over and took her statement, and they left. Tracy still to this day does not know who was the one who called her and who it was and how they found her phone number. She does not know. It still really makes her wonder to this day who that person was or whoever it was that was on the phone. It still really frightens her today of who could have been calling her. It still unsettles her as of today, but she still doesn't know why this person was trying to call her. It definitely didn't sound even human. So this happened to a group of kids that were playing on the PS4 back in 2019. Now, it was a hot day in the summertime, so they were pretty much having a sleepover at Tyler's house. Tyler with with his three friends decided to come over to play video games on the PlayStation 4, as they had planned to spend the entire afternoon inside, as it was pretty hot outside, and while they did go swimming, they decided to play video games. While lounging on the comfortable couches and trying out different settings and levels, they were playing some stuff like Fortnite and that. Just as Tyler clicked on the start button of the remote, all four of them in the room felt the temperature to suddenly drop. Of course, this was honestly weird, as the heat was not very that cold or anything like that. In fact, it was hot outside. The AC had not been tampered with, to which Tyler thought that it could have been the AC, but he checked and nothing was there. That was just really weird. Everyone looked around expecting to find the source of the chill, but there was no one or nothing out of the ordinary of the room. The boys continued to play, and then the chill that crept in hadn't disappeared. It only gotten worse. One by one, the boys started to notice some strange sounds coming from the walls. It started as a low hum, like from that old radio station, but it quickly got louder and louder, like something was trying to get in. They all noticed that there was someone or something moving around the room. They could feel the vibration, but they couldn't make out what it was, and only further increased their fear. "We should go," Tyler's friend Mitchell suggested. "I don't know what's going on, but I think we should get out of the house." Reluctantly, the boys followed Mitchell's lead, and they paused their game and hurried out the door. However, as they looked around, and even they drove away a little bit, they couldn't help but going back and wonder or notice that the figure of a man seems to be in the window. After the cops had came and checked out the house, they said they couldn't find any source. They couldn't find anyone or anything for that matter that could have caused the figure to appear. Even Tyler's parents were either surprised when they got back, but of course they didn't find anything. Even the cops searched the area, but they couldn't find the person. It has been 4 years since that incident. No one has seen or heard from Tyler and his friends in that summer or on that day, which happened to be they'd never spoken about it, and no one has heard or seen Tyler talk about this. They believe that whatever that was in Tyler's house was completely paranormal. They have no idea who that man was, but it definitely was not anyone they know. Of course, that's when Tyler and his family moved out of that house and house at least a couple months later, as they have felt the sense of paranormal. But they never went back to that house to this day, and Tyler still wonders what was really going on. Was definitely the freakiest experience he had ever seen. So Just to keep this in mind, that this took place in the winter of 2016. It had been really something that this man had been going through a lot. Now, John pretty much just was feeling really, really not in the great mood, as he was not having the best month. It was before Christmas, and he had been laid off from his retail job. Now, to be honest, John was actually in his early 30s at the time, and this took place sometime in 2020. It was around the time before the global pandemic. I can't remember exactly, but it was around January. It was sometime after Christmas. Of course, it wasn't really the best month since he was laid off, but unfortunately, he and his girlfriend had broke up at least a few months before Christmas. So John was pretty much alone. He had his dog, which happened to be his golden retriever, Buddy. Buddy was very gentle. He was super friendly and was always there for John, especially on days when everything was not going well. With nothing to do one day when John got back from another job, he was trying to find another one, as he had worked at two different jobs to help keep the apartment. It was a windy night and the snow had begun to pile up, so this was around the time when John decided to boot up the Xbox One and play some Halo. As fast forward about 2 hours into the game, he was so engrossed in the game when his dog Buddy started to bark like crazy. At first, John assumed that it was just a neighbor walking home or a squirrel that happened to be just running around or something. However, it became more apparent. Then that's when John ended up looking outside. As soon as he opened the door, he couldn't see anyone. He couldn't even see if somebody was out there. But of course, this was definitely strange, as John never seen Buddy acting like this, as he usually doesn't bark in a defensive mode. Of course, John decided to go back to continuing the game when he all of a sudden heard a woman screaming. It sounded like as if she was being attacked or something. At first, when he heard it sounded like a woman was being attacked, he grabbed his gun, ran outside, and saw a woman on the ground who was struggling and crying. A man was standing over her, threatening her. John yelled out towards the man and ran over the attacker, and then he had threatened to call the police. Of course, the man quickly ran off as John pulled up the girl and helped her up and ran her inside. Quickly, she had called the police, and of course, this woman, who happened to be around her late 20s, saying that she was going to be violated by her ex-boyfriend. Of course, John ended up calling the police, and they took his statement, but they are not sure if they were updated about Stacy or not. Eventually, 3 years later, the two of them have become great friends and even shared an experience of a friend finding the strength in difficult times. No matter what the season going on, John's heart was always welcome knowing that Stacy was safe and sound. And later on, which was around 2023 of January, John and Stacy decided to get married. And of course, their wedding was in February, so they had been together for a while. It still makes John and Stacy wonder, why was this man wanting to attack Stacy? That honestly gets him really confused, but he also still has no idea to this day who that man was or if he had been caught or not. That still really bothers John. He has no idea what would have happened if Buddy had not alerted him that night.